voice.
How we doing?
Coming back up now.
Is the video on? So they know we're here.
Yeah.
Wait 1 minute. Ron? All right. Sorry about the little delay. We had a little technical difficulty, but we will now, I call the meeting to order. Pledge of Allegiance, led by Trustee Simpson.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Tim? Good news. Mr. Hilderly.
All right, we do like to celebrate things from time to time. We have a couple of items to mention tonight. We'll first ask Mr. Niles to come forward with his high school student.
I am quite fortunate this evening. Good evening, everybody. I just like getting right to the good stuff. Very fortunate to have Mr. Ben Lambert. I don't know if you guys have ever met Ben or heard of Ben or heard him play songs on his trumpet, which he does awesomely. Sing, sing, sing. But that's really not why he's here this evening. This young man is not only the class of 2022's valedictorian, and when I was his age, I couldn't even spell that, and he is it, so we're very proud of him. But he has also done so well academically and did so well on the SAT that he was named a semifinalist. There's only 15,000 semifinalists in the United States out of all the students that take the SAT. So you just start doing the math on that. That's a phenomenal number. There's only 7,500 then that are chosen as, what are they? The scholarship recipients after that. So, and we're kind of hoping that, we haven't heard yet.
But I'm also a finalist.
Yes, and he's also a finalist, which was where I was going next. So, doing my thing, man. Come on. No, very proud of Ben because he was also chosen as a finalist. And to make it to that point is an incredible feat in itself. And I just wanted to take this moment and share our good fortune of spending time with Ben and watching him grow and become an awesome young man and an Indian academic honor to with you guys this evening. So if we could give him a round of applause for this. I'm probably going to get a picture here, I'm assuming.
Dennis, what are his plans?
I'm going to ask him. Yeah, go ahead.
So next year I'll be going to the Massachusetts Institute of Technology to study aerospace engineering.
And aren't you not like 17 or something?
Yeah, I'm 17.
Did you skip a grade too?
In 5th grade.
Honest to goodness. That's so
What about those 5th grade teachers?
Awesome.
So,
Good luck.
go around and shake everyone's
Yeah.
hands because they deserve that.
Yeah, me too. Thank you.
If you want to hear an awesome speech, graduation, June 5th, his will be the first good speech that day, because I'll speak first, and of course we all know I'm not that great.
Looking forward to
So,
it.
good speech right there. So, congratulations.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
Ben, you want to introduce your parents that came with you tonight?
You guys wanna come up? This is my father, Mr. James Lammers, and this is my mother, Miss Joyce Lammers.
Thank you.
Good job.
Next, we have an announcement more than a presentation about a neat thing that happened with Tecumseh Acres. They collected some coins, and they had so much in excess of what they needed that they decided to make a special donation. So this is Wayne.
Yeah, so,
Come forward.
yeah, sure. So May Mingle, as you guys know, we just had that, so we wanted to do something special for the CLC because they do a lot for our students. And I can't take any credit, it was all Carrie Northrup's idea, one of our kindergarten teachers, but she said, what if we do a coin drive and we'll take the money and we'll put it towards one of the baskets for a raffle. We said, that sounds great. We were expecting maybe $200, ended up with $1,400, I think. So we were overwhelmed by the amount of support that we got. We put $200 towards the basket, and of course, we wanted to donate the rest to the CLC for all the great things that they do for our students and our community. So thank you guys so much for all that you do, and I hope that this helps a little bit.
Thank you.
Yes.
Yep, we can do that. Yeah, just one other thing I want to mention, CLC, if finish the May Mingle, they have a wonderful number, but I'm going to let her talk about that with the CLC board, and we're going to bring her back for another good news item to talk about how the May Mingle works. So thank you for coming tonight.
Yeah, let's roll the mangle, but let's take a picture. Ben with Mr. Hillary and Mr. Niles. And your parents. Good Mike.
Just read them. Well, that doesn't work. Just read them.
Thanks.
Right. Thanks. That's something we want to do before. All right, that's all the good news.
So we're sharing.
All right, public comment on agenda items. Anybody? All right, we're on to the board agenda. Revisions approval of the agenda. I do know of one change or addition we want to make. We want to add a discussion item for the sculpture garden.
I'll make a motion that we add the sculpture garden to discussion.
Support.
We moved in, second that we add sculpture garden to the discussion. Roll call vote, trustee Brooks. Trustee Davis.
Aye.
Trustee Lewis.
Aye.
Trustee Moore.
Aye.
Trustee Simpson. Aye. Trustee Thomas.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Are there any other changes to the agenda? And I will accept the motion to accept the agenda as modified.
So moved. Support.
Move the second to accept the modified agenda. Roll call vote, trustee Tomlin.
Aye.
Trustee Simpson.
Aye.
Trustee Moore.
Aye.
Trustee Lewis.
Aye.
Trustee Davis.
Aye.
Trustee Brooks.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. The revised agenda is approved. Schedule reports. First on the list this evening is the transportation report. Mr. Newsom.
How's everybody doing tonight?
Great.
It's been a long time since I've presented, and that's a good thing. Because in my line of work, no news is good news, right?
That's right.
It's funny, one of these, I'm not gonna say who, said something about me being like Batman, right, like in my cave. And I've heard it before, I actually wanna be Batman. Right, like, you know I'm there, right, if you need something, a call, but, you know, most times we don't talk a lot, so, thanks for that.
We're not getting a bell signal.
What's that? No? On the roof. All bad jokes aside, though, I do have a quick update before that. Huge shout out to you guys. I know some of the admins aren't here. I don't want to forget anybody like an Oscar speech, but you guys really have been outstanding this year. So from all of us bus drivers, this year has been a challenge in a good way. Everybody's back. It really is a privilege working with you guys. So thank you all. I mean that sincerely. Athletics too, they're not here. Parents, staff, everybody, the board office, just as a whole. It really, really is great working with everybody. You know, where we're at right now, my data guy, you guys know that, just a few numbers, just because I always bring something. So to date, we've transported 267,720 students this year. Made 103,870 bus stops. We have 1,516 riders, 97.6% on time across the board. So that's my data portion of the presentation. Summer school, we should have those figured out by the end of the week so we can get it to you guys and start notifying the parents. Kelly, I'm not sure exactly how many we're looking at just yet, but that'll be done, so we're working on that. Obviously, the framework for next year, we start about March 1st working on the next year. We're not gonna have the challenges we had last year with there's no infinite campus coming in, which we knew was gonna be a challenge, but I don't think none of us really realized how big of one. So we don't have to worry about that. The district realignment from last year, you know, we had to start over last year, right, when we switched the building. So this year's gonna be a nice, easy startup. Busing information being in Infinite Campus now is great because on the first day of school, obviously we're sending postcards out, you guys will have it all, teachers will have it all, it updates automatically every night. So that'll be great. Thanks to, like, Alicia's not here, you know, her help this year getting that going as well. We got vans in, I don't know, 6 weeks ago or so, maybe 2 months ago, I think. Sorry it took so long, but we were able to finally get some vans for the district to use. That's been great. Obviously, the parents have been driving up until then, so happy we could help with that again. Sorry it took so long. Other than that, it's really what I got.
So how big of a problem is the staffing?
I don't want to say we haven't had a staffing issue this year. You know, I have 5 extra drivers. I have more extra drivers than we have extra buses. Right? Buses obviously are expensive, so we try to keep a balance there. We're a lot better off than a lot of other folks. You know, we've been bringing Pinckney athletes here for our home events because they don't have bus drivers this year. So staffing, we've been lucky and fortunate this year. So everybody's coming back next year. Recruiting's been a challenge like it is for everyone. You know, we got billboards up on 50, you've probably seen that. Applicant flow is starting to pick back up. Really, it's just, you know, there was one day this year. So after all this stuff, one day where I had to go to Rick because there was one route that I couldn't come. So since COVID, one time in 3 years. So again, my drivers are great. Obviously these guys, so we're pretty fortunate. So staffing is not my biggest issue. This time of year is a struggle. Field trips, athletics, you have 6, 7 different things going on at the same time. That's really the challenge, is just balancing all that.
I just want to say I worked at kindergarten roundup for Kiwanis, and it was you had like all these really cute little bags for the kids and these really cool little buses.
Little
and
squishies, yeah.
I have never, I mean, it was a joy to work at, the excitement when they saw that bus and the gift bag. Oh man, like Hollywood, yeah. I mean, just like that was like the last stop, and I just, you know, I don't know, I haven't had a kindergarten in a long time. It was so cute to see him and to get that cute little gift bag. Wow.
So squishy buses, the kids just love them.
I wanted one, but didn't.
I got some extras. I'll send them to you for sure. Greg, you want one too?
I think I can live without it.
I need one.
All right. Gift bags for everybody next time. How's that?
Great job.
Thank you very much for all your support.
Our pleasure, it really is.
Good, all right, thanks.
Thanks.
All right, next on the agenda is the finance report.
Good evening, board. In your packet should be the monthly financial statements for the month of April. Cash on hand as of April 30th is $3,958,077.40. Check runs for the month of April is $847,023.51. Total revenue represented from July 1st through April 30th is $29,763,863.77. And for that same time period, total expenditures is $26,528,820.12. Also in your packet are the comparative revenue and expenditure reports comparing 22 to 21. Any answer any questions?
No, I certainly reviewed them, everything appeared to be in order. If there's anything we should know about, about everything?
Okay.
Anybody have any questions?
Any news on ESSER fund yet, Kelly?
Not yet.
No news on ESSER?
No lead on ESSER.
Is that the kind of thing you expect any day?
The goal was the state to have everything reviewed and approved by June 1. We're still waiting. Some, I've heard good news from some districts, but we haven't got our good news yet.
All right, any other questions? Thank you very much. Policy Committee. Simpsons.
Yeah, I didn't actually write up a report because we're gonna just simply read through the policies from Troon, and we're done with them. So you can see them in the shared drive. So we'll be, take the phone now next slide, is that right? So,
Well,
you went to the first policy, the first
right.
building. Essentially, it's boilerplate, you get pick and choose and so forth, so. If you want to read them, go for it.
Is there anything reading?
So, you're gonna present those officially to the board at the next meeting?
They're gonna be voted on. There's nothing to sign.
On for discussion tonight.
So it's on for discussion today?
Have the adjustments already been made in the shared drive and you check that? Okay, so eventually, the other people who aren't on that committee will be able to look at it if they want to, so that they can see.
Might be better to have discussion after they're look at it.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, I'll have some questions, but I guess we'll do that in the discussion. Okay? All right, well, nice work by the policy committee. I mean, that's a significant task. I mean, we probably have, what, 9 hours of meetings? 10 hours of meetings? I mean, I was for 3 for the first one, so, yeah. Thanks for your hard work on that. Any other questions, or I guess we do have a discussion coming up. Facilities and ground, Mr. Davis.
So the report was in your report packet. We had several agenda items that we did not get to because of late breaking meeting about bonds that took up most of our conversation. So we will meet again this Wednesday with those other items. But we reviewed the bond update with Plant Moran Cressa and some of our options. So I believe there's maybe some discussion, study session, or some other plans that Mr. Millerly will share about that. The other thing that was briefly discussed was the sculpture garden bid results. So only one bid was received from FNS Landscape. There is a slight uptick in cost from the original bid because of an actual detailed drawing. But Kelly recommended that we bring it to the full board. So our recommendation is that we discuss that this evening, and if we're okay, we can suspend this vote. Didn't sound like it was super urgent, but it's special, she's not to be, so.
We didn't get a copy of the bid in the front package, did we?
Yes, we did.
Oh, here, it's in the, yeah,
Very last one.
very last page.
But it wasn't in.
It wasn't in the electronic.
It was not in the electronic, okay. But again, that's an option for discussion, so.
I believe that meeting is actually Thursday.
Was it Thursday? So we discussed Wednesday.
I've got it on Thursday at 5:00.
That's fine.
And, yes, invite has been sent.
Sort of time, I think.
Okay, we can move it over to Wednesday.
Or can Tony submit?
I won't be here.
If we can move that back to 4:30 on Wednesday, does it work?
Works for me. No, 5?
I works for me on Thursday, but he's not. On Wednesday, maybe it's 4:30? Yeah,
Your invitation coming out.
Wednesday, 4:30?
The 25th.
Yeah, but that's the same.
2 days from now, right? I check these blocks. All right,
and we've received the update.
we've received what?
We received the update, just received the update.
Oh.
So, that's all we have for this.
Okay, all right, thank you. Next report, the strategic plan. It looks like, Rick, you're gonna do a presentation.
Hard to beat.
Give a sentence.
Encouraging.
You're gonna do a presentation for strategic plan.
Yeah, strategic plan is coming up. All right, as you know, the strategic plan has been in place now for about 3 months. It's our goal to make a report to the board quarterly. So at the end of Q1, on your table, as you sat down there, I gave you a new copy of one of the slides because it's updated. I copy and pasted the wrong information into one of the squares, so that updates your packet. So just to review, the board not only created the plan, but also an updated mission statement, belief statements, vision, and the 5 strategic focus areas. Each time, we hope that progress will be made at each focus area, but they're not all going to be timed out to deal with the same information every quarter. We'll report on them regardless. So the 5 strategic areas involve academics and programs, the learning environment and culture, operations, personnel and leadership, and then communications and community engagement. And they all have a variety of objectives in the first year, and I'll go through those specifically now. So the implementation plan after the strategic planning event that happened in January and was finally implemented by the board in April, or I guess it was the end of March, involved work by the administrators and some directors to refine some of those objectives, and we will continue to update the action planning throughout the process. There's timelines there to develop a reporting calendar. We've done that quarterly. Develop a communication plan, which is something that Victor and I are working on, and scheduling of the reports, such as tonight. So the first one is the academics and programs. Tecumseh Public Schools will develop life skills and real world learning opportunities for curriculum alignment. First year objectives were to develop district strategy, planning process, explore real world course offerings, and create academic culture. our first steps in that direction were primarily the development of, interviewing for, and hiring of the Director of Curriculum Assessment and Instruction, which has been filled by Mrs. Way. That was approved by you on the 9th of May. In terms of the culture shift, we have run through the curriculum review cycle 3 times now, 2 for math and most recently for ELA. That's an important part of building the culture with our staff, is understanding where their place is and giving input. And each time that we do run through that process, I think that they become more confident in their role and take it more seriously, and therefore I think buy-in is much quicker by establishing that culture. And that'll continue to be ongoing. Next year we'll be taking a look at social studies and science in the curriculum area. The responsibility for this goal area, as all of them, the superintendent's at the top of that responsibility chain. And in this case, the Director of Curriculum Assessment and Instruction, who works closely with principals and department heads and other teacher leaders to develop the curriculum. This is reported through the curriculum committee and ultimately to the Board of Education. Next is the learning environment. Tecumseh Public Schools will provide an inclusive and engaging learning environments for staff and students coming on collaboration, training, and empowerment. So far, again, developing the process through the addition of a Director of Curriculum. And I think in many ways also the Director of Human Resources will play a role, especially in the training part of that goal statement. This responsibility, once again, the superintendent, the Director of Curriculum Assessment and Instruction, work with the principals and department heads. This also gets reported to the curriculum committee and then eventually to the Board of Education. Operations, this was the cell that I had cleaned up for you. TPS will increase investments in infrastructure and provide safe, clean, and reliable services. Our progress on that goal, one of them was to be Plan A, which was pass the bond. We were not successful, so we are currently working on collecting feedback to determine a course forward. With the bond program, our Plan B was to develop a plan to address the needs if there was a no vote. So we're collecting information to eventually prioritize future needs, and we'll set a schedule for that and a budget as well. And then also the establish an inventory management system. That management system is up and running, and at the next facilities meeting, which is now Wednesday at 4:30, we will get a presentation from Mr. Hawkins on that management system. Responsibility falls to the superintendent, the Director of Facilities, and then input from the principals and directors. This is reported through the Facilities Committee and eventually to the Board of Education. Personnel and leadership, Tecumseh Public Schools will actively hire and retain high-quality staff. Some of our first-year goals include increasing face-to-face recruitment of staff, develop innovative and competitive compensation structures. All about that I can say is we have a contract in place that has changed the face of the TEA's contract, moving from the wage-based system to the salary schedule. That was done previous to this list of objectives, but I think it fits under that as an accomplishment for this board. And then previous to this year, all of the hourly staff and directors were given a 3-year 10% wage increase, and that would also fit under that objective. And then developing an onboarding program for all new hires. I think most substantially what we've done so far is onboard Danielle as the Human Resources Director. She's got great experience and has already established positive relationships in the district. She is in the process of developing a quality onboarding program. We don't have a lot of teacher positions open for hire at this point, but when the time comes in August, there will be a new employee orientation. But it doesn't necessarily just apply to the certified staff. We onboard employees around the calendar year, and just making sure that we get that process right. That when people show up, that they are prepared to work for us in whatever capacity they've been hired is all part of the planning for that. I'll talk a little bit more about that goal and something like it as I wrap things up in a moment. Superintendent is mainly responsible with the Director of Human Resources in conjunction with principals and directors who give most of the recommendations for the hires. And this gets reported directly to the Board of Education. We don't have a personnel committee currently. Communications and community engagement, TPS will implement streamlined communication strategies and services that allow community members to provide input and access information. Some of the movement we've made on that, we will be changing from the Blackboard alert system that we currently use. That contract dries up at the end of June, so we will be moving to the system in Infinite Campus, training on the messenger system, and we'll begin using that over the summer. I'll send some test messages. We're a couple of weeks away from not having to do the Sunday announcements anymore, but we will do some test messages over the summer as we understand the Infinite Campus messenger system more. In terms of two-way communication, we are currently gathering stakeholder input. The survey that we put out last week is pretty much closed out. We shared the information summary and comments with the board today. We still have some community forums, one on Thursday night in person here in this room, and the following week we have one online, I believe it's on Wednesday. And then have developed an increasing presence in the local newspaper and talking with the editor. He's interested in allowing some column space. So that is another way that we're going to try to reach our community. Victor has recently done, and this just happened today, I got some information from Victor. He's reworked his own communications page on the website, actually referring to it more as public information more than communications. So a lot of the news updates and social media posts will end up there as well for people to consume. Responsibility for that, again, superintendent, director of communications. That also goes, that also goes through the principals and directors to notify us when things need to be communicated. And that gets reported directly to the Board of Education. So the next report will be in August. This was really a summary report, and I'm working with MASD to develop a more detailed report so that we can keep track over time in a spreadsheet type document. So they've given me a couple of templates to take a look at. I think it'll be an effective way for you to see the growth of some of these goal areas over time, and then keep it all back through time so that we can see what has been happening. In terms of having the directors develop their action plans a little further, I think coming into summer is a great time to do that. We can use this next quarter for developing more detailed action plans and then rolling them out to staff as we start the next school year. And then quarters 3 and 4 will be very much about implementing those goals. So that is what's coming next. A good portion of the next 3 months will be planning, and then the last 2 quarters of the year, at least for this report, will be for implementation of those detailed plans.
So, are you going to send us this presentation, or will you soon have the other summary?
You should have this presentation. Was it part of your packets?
No.
Okay. So I can share this presentation with you.
And when you take the summer report, is that,
I'm gonna try to get that developed over, the summer, and when we report again in August, I'll add this stuff into the detailed report so that you can see those actions tracked over time.
yeah, so you can send this to us, and then in August, we'll get the detail.
Yeah.
report.
These would be great points in like your increased thing in the Herald to, break down some of those, because, I think then people can see that we are working on curriculum, and we are, working on these things, maybe they're just not aware of what we're working on.
Right, yeah, and that's a good point. There are many things that we work on constantly. There's a lot of balls in the air all the time. Folks were bombarded with information about the bond most recently, but all of these things are ongoing. So I think reporting that and getting that in the public consciousness is important as well. Questions on that?
Bill, what about the data collection here? I go back to my data. Is there a specific way they're gonna track our success? I mean, through grades or grade level?
I don't know if there'll be anything about grades, but certainly standardized test scores can be an important part of that. Again, that's something that we need to talk about.
I mean, we really don't know how successful we are if we don't track it.
Right.
That's all I'm saying. I mean, it would give us great bragging rights to be able to say, hey, we improved our math scores overall. Every year they go up by 2 points or what,
And I think an important thing to remember about this is the dates on the plan.
Yeah.
From 2022 to 2027. So these first few quarters are gonna be a lot about planning and implementation. And then comparative data is something that we'll certainly wanna have benchmarks throughout time, but our eye is way over on the horizon at this point.
So, I mean, that's a great point. So will data become something that the directors, administrators will be part, and let them roll up into this?
Right, we will decide what it is that the data points are that we want to check and monitor, and that's what we'll be reporting. But that's all part of the planning and implementation process.
But eventually it will roll into this.
Eventually, it'll all be reported through this plan and this report. Okay, thank you.
All right, I think that's the last, report, so we'll move on to, discussion items. The first item, on the discussion is the, renewal membership. Now, this was included in our packet. There's a letter, to myself, and then also, it was Chairman Gordon, and the renewal notice invoice was included.
The primary thing I wanted to point out there was that there was an option for an additional $2,000 for whether or not they wanted to buy a service related to some promotional video, News Plus video. So you'll just have to read that over and decide as a group. This is your organization statewide, so if that's an expenditure that the board wants to make, then we will very clear with that.
Maybe ask Victor to look at that.
No, Victor has not looked at it. But if you'd like to, give his feedback on that before the next meeting, you can do that.
I mean, certainly in the last year, we've used MASD a lot, right? And they've been very, very helpful in the strategic planning process, and in early last year, developing the board surveys and the norms and that. So I think that I personally feel that, you know, they, although we didn't pay them for the strategic planning, it was not an excessive amount of money. I think in the last year, we could certainly point to a lot of places that we received value from MASP.
And the training certificates and certifications that various members have received
Yeah.
all come through MASP, so there's a lot of ongoing training. It's valuable.
And certainly if we bring on new board members, I mean, that would be, I mean, we'd want to use them, sure.
What
Very
did
helpful for me.
What did we spend last year? Just.
On, the strategic plan,
No,
Just on the dues.
on the dues.
you don't
I think
know.
it said it went up 3%.
I think she's, I think you're right. Yeah, 3% increase.
Yeah.
So. I think it's about
Everyone really would like to explore looking at the video. I'm maybe getting like some information of what other districts, like a clip of what it looks like. Do you know what I mean? So that we could see what would be the value in that. I think that, you know, we don't often do enough, or we can't do enough of tuning our own learn. We have great students and great staff. So if we could see a sample of what another district paid for, I think that would really help.
Will you take care of that?
I think it's helpful for him to look at to see if he thinks that's a good price for that, or thinks something else can be done in video, we don't have to put it on the website.
Sure, yep, I'll get that provided to you for the next meeting.
Does anybody understand, they talk about that we received $33,000 in savings in the health benefit consultation. Does anybody understand that? Do you understand that?
I didn't see it, sorry.
Is that good? Yeah, it says health benefits consultation, property casualty pool workers, compensation fund are available. Your district received $33,696 savings. I guess I was just curious,
What we pay.
We must pool them for something. Right. We're pooled into this at seven insurance pool, with all the other MASP districts. So there's, you know, economy of scale, because they're spreading the risk across all those districts, not just a few.
what does that say?
It's an insurance organization that I call it.
For the property casualty insurance.
But they also have health insurance. It's a big insurance agency is what it is, but it deals with schools exclusively.
All right, any other questions on that? So we'll look for that feedback from you, Rick, and then we'll put this on action item for next meeting. Transportation contract.
Transportation contract has been in front of the budget committee for 2 conversations, and their final recommendation is to renew the contract with the current company. That calls out 3 years worth of financials with open financials for year 4 and year 5. In your packet, you have the full contract that's being considered, and then there's a 1-page sheet with rates for next year if the board decides to only extend the contract for 1 year. The rates are higher, only extending 1 year. And what you see in the proposal for a 3-year is a little bit of a reduction in those costs.
So
As I
this,
said, the budget committee has seen that, and I recommend, but honestly, to not continue at this point would cause concerning levels of problems for us to on board by July.
So what it says per bus rate of $364, that's for what? $364 is per route, per year, per route, per month, per route, per day? Per day, per route, per day. And how much of an increase is this on the 3-year contract?
Depending on what the percentage increase is from this year to next.
The difference between now and then, or between the 1 year and the 3 year?
No, between now and then, the 3 years.
It says 353.
Well, I know that, I know between now.
It says oh, I see. But then somebody wrote 330 on there.
Right.
It's handwritten 330,
That's this year.
That's this year's.
right? And there's no, I mean, there's no stipulation for gas increases, that's the rate.
District pays for fuel.
You can guess.
That's our rate.
The budget committee is recommending we approve this.
They're already committed.
And from where we started, what Beth has done. Especially on the timing of getting kids to school.
All of them
Massive.
building shifts.
The building shifts that I mean, think about the first year we came on, Suzanne, all the calls we got.
No.
My kid wasn't picked up, my Ellen was a disaster, and that was taking that over and just done amazing things. Plus, they went through and did they took the computer systems and merged them, so that we had what, 6,000 students that were on the list at one point, and we only
Yeah, I
had
remember that.
2,700 students in the district. So we had bus routes setting up for 6,000 students because the systems were never clearing out older people that had left or graduated or whatever. Ben has come in and done all of that.
I also appreciate what they do for the community, like when they do weight breaking, they make that happen, even though that is not easy. And like apple luncheon and different like things are used, so I think it's good contract.
We've been happy with the service, so I would recommend.
And the current agreement expires end of June, so we have to have this approved so we can get it at the next meeting.
Correct.
Any other questions? No? All right, well, we'll move on. Next on the agenda is lawn care snow removal contract.
Yes, you have in your packet a letter of request from FNS to continue the current agreement with current prices. And then today, I provided the detailed contract, the original of which was signed in 2010. There are a couple of continuation letters attached to that as well. Again, it's a long relationship with FNS that benefits us in ways that aren't mentioned in the contract. This went to the budget committee a couple of months ago. They felt that probably that there was a need to take a look at this and put it up for bid. The facilities director had some concerns about that because Mr. Hawkins works very closely with that group. So we had a conversation at the facilities committee. We would bring it back to budget and said, can you please reconsider this? The prices are good. They were actually reduced several years ago by 5% and do not see an increase. The vendor is happy with the contract and the rates, even with fuel expenses being greater. It's a contract that they enjoy, and it provides them with many benefits as well.
When did it go down?
When did it go down?
Yeah.
They
2007.
reduced it in 7, 8, during the economic downturn. So we're
It's been
getting,
the same ever since then?
yes, we're getting prices that are several years old. And quality service. Throughout the district.
Yeah, it says 10, but still.
And
You gotta
local,
do the math, sounds like 15.
and local, we put out for bid for the
What year was it?
sculpture garden.
Oh, I thought you said 7.
From the,
Pardon me?
we put out bid for sculpture garden, the only response we had was from that. That's the
Oh, I mean, listen, they're not standing, they support, I mean, they support us everything. I question the cancellation. This is a 5-year contract, it's a long time, things happen. Rick sent a copy of the contract, it's all, the cancellation clause is all in place, it's comfortable with that, so. I don't have any other questions. Anybody else? Okay, then, and again, I think we have time to put that on the next meeting for approval, right?
We do. The only time problem that could exist is if the board chose not to support it. And time problem would become necessary. Some adjustments, but so would we would have to onboard somebody after the fiscal year. So we do have time to
Well, I mean, both committees are recommending moving forward.
I would like to change the
Got the letter. Anything else on that? Again, thanks for sending me that contract, that cancellation clause. I think it's important in the 5-year contract. And I'm comfortable with what was there, personally. Policies and procedures.
The board policy committee, as you mentioned earlier, finished several hours worth of work just in meetings, let alone the time that was spent reading on their own as we transition from one policy manual to another. Even though this took a long time, the policies, I think, are more simple to understand and easy to implement. It was a goal of this board to get the policy manual caught up and then we'll start working on administrative guidelines. This policy comes with administrative guidelines and forms that now the administration will begin to have to make sure that our actions match with our procedures. But I think it's a step in the right direction for us to use the policy. So I'm recommending.
Are there any policies being added versus our previous list?
There's 10 different series in the Neola policy, and there's only 5. So the policies are organized and collected in a different manner. It's really hard to say that, one left this out and one left that out. They're organized differently. But
quantity wise, there's like a third.
Right.
Or something
And
like that.
I think that's something that's nice, I wasn't on policy before, but you have the opportunity every time that they offer to attend the virtual meetings where they review the policy. So this is
Right.
something we can continue to do every year, and I don't know that the other provider that, did they?
well, with Neola, you got updates twice a year, a spring and fall update, and the policy committee would review those.
This is
But
like
training-
live interaction,
Yeah, training interaction was not to the extent.
I
Pam,
felt like that was great.
That's for the brand new people, though, I think like us. Like, we
Well, I
just
think
got
you
it.
can hop on it anytime you want, like, if I continue to be on policy, I would want to do that, because I thought they do add new policy, and I felt like that was really great, you could get some dialogue from other districts and what they were doing,
Yeah.
and they gave you a reason why you may wanna look at and tweak things, I thought that's really good.
and the attorneys that will have to defend it are the attorneys who wrote it. So there's a close connection, and I think that easy to understand, or makes a lot of sense.
So I guess we just need to all know when it's totally updated and when we can all review it.
I guess my question to the policy community, is there anything significant that really stuck out to you about the differences between old and new?
You think I got that whole water policy memorized? You. It was.
12 years you've been on the board.
I know, I'm good.
I think the biggest thing I saw was that
it's totally separate for staff, and then, you know, where this is somewhat merged, the rules are the same, and they include everybody, and they include them, so.
They didn't have forms in the Neola, right, for the administrators.
No, there was no administrative stuff at all. That's why Rick was starting from ground zero, because we had nothing.
Administrative.
Right.
So we can certainly view them.
But again, I think Neola just kept adding and adding and adding. Oh, we saw, here's what's that, this is what's that.
And we constantly had to ask questions. We had to go to lawyers. What about this? What does that mean? How does this work? This way, it's like very clear cut. A lot more clear cut.
All right, so, you let us know when it's updated, and then,
Then are we gonna get to the board? Board member, something like that, so we'll have.
Yeah,
we're
board-
gonna drop agendas and everything.
what, do you have a feel, do you have a feel for that? I mean, is that,
By the end of next week, they'll be completed, and hopefully the board works will be, so the policies have to be completed first. All of that, change and correction, and then board works on for that.
Should probably put this on till June something.
I was gonna say, maybe we should, not do it next meeting, we'll put it on the meeting after that.
Sure.
Agree.
Take some time to.
Time, because it's gonna take time, 1 or 2 weeks to go through.
Right,
Yeah.
especially if it's another week, so we'll put it on the, June, the next meeting is June 13th, right?
And the 27th is the organization meeting, and that'll be a good thing.
Right, so we'll put it on June 27th. 27.
There's no audio version either.
Oh, we have to have a public meeting to read that?
Yeah, we do, we'll have to.
So we'll have to have a meeting early, so if people want to come and ask questions, they can look at it.
On the policy?
Yeah, we'll have, we'll post the 6:30 special meeting prior to the regular meeting for them.
So how will they be provided? Well, like when you do the health advisory one, I assume it's the same way, you have the manuals up here, and she has like them printed in a notebook. People could come up at the 6:30 time and scan through them, and then they can also ask us questions about policy.
Would they
So
be
at that
available
point, we have
online?
them online, huh?
Would they be available online?
They
For
would,
them to view?
they would have to come and view them in.
Oh, until we approve.
I guess we could have computers set up with it, and we could have that hard copy notebook preparation.
And you just have to provide the opportunity for the community to engage with the information. So it doesn't, you have to send it out, we don't have to have it provided electronically. The information will be printed in their office, and if anybody wants to take a look, they can request to come in and do that.
Okay? Good? Everyone good? All right. Donations. Again, just, we'll sort of act on, but we have, we continue, it's amazing, the community, the support. We continue to get every meeting, there's 3 or 4 of these. So we have a $250 donation from FNS Landscape for the class of 2022. We have a $1,264.97 from the Tecumseh Coalition for Youth to SAD, Students Against Drunk Driving. Is that, so the SAD is a chapter or organization we have here at the school?
Yes,
So that money's going directly into there?
it is.
And then we have $500 from, 2 $500 donations from Ray and Karen Torres, one for the girls' basketball program and one for the boys, for the football program. So, students against destructive decisions. Okay, but that money's going directly to a chapter we have here in the schools.
It's a lot of
Correct.
activities for.
Okay, so I don't know, are there any questions, other than that question I had? Any other questions? We'll certainly move. So, with that, I think that there's no other discussions, we'll move to the
One
motion.
more we had.
Oh, that's right.
Sculpture.
Sculpture garden,
Garden bid.
okay.
There was one, and no shocker, I'm gonna recommend the board approve it. But open discussion.
What was the previous one? You know, my apologies, I didn't look it up just before the meeting, but I recall it was like right around, rounded up to 30,000. It's like 29,000 and some change. Yeah.
What was that question?
The previous bid,
Previous budget, or was there a bid? There was a bid.
And then how much money do we have in, yes? Let's sure.
Yeah, we do have it covered. There was one large donation of 30,000, and then there's been some additional that I don't recall, no, that's off my head, top of my head, but I could get that for you.
So what is this total? I guess we just got this, so.
The total is $31,505.
31,505?
It's covered in gifts.
Yes.
Correct. I would drive by the other night, and there was a concert, and that was really cool out there. Our show, it's a great space, it's gonna just evolve more.
we have another donation from Premier Bank to cover the cost of the electrical that we need to be run off here. And
Amplifiers.
yeah, that will not require a bid, we'll just have a normal electric vendor. Which will go down to the price of that.
When will they start on
As soon as it's approved by the board is when it's full.
Also, that is only a motion to suspend the rules and put it on for tonight. Well, that's great.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded that we suspend the rules and we add approval for this to tonight's action items. Roll call vote. Trustee Lewis?
Yeah.
Trustee Moore?
Aye.
Trustee Simpson?
Aye.
Trustee Tomlin?
Aye.
Trustee Brooks?
Aye.
Trustee Davis?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. So now we need a motion to add, do we need a motion to add this to the agenda now? Yes.
I'll make a motion to add it to the action items.
Support.
Moved and seconded to add the approval for the sculpture garden creation to the action items. Roll call vote. Trustee Moore.
Aye.
Trustee Simpson.
Aye.
Trustee Tomlin.
Aye.
Trustee Brooks.
Aye.
Trustee Davis.
Aye.
Trustee Lewis.
Aye.
Chair votes aye, so we're adding this to the action items. Please. Get it down. All right, now we can move on to the motions. Mr. Simpson?
I hereby move to accept with thanks the donations given as follows: $250 from FNS Landscaping to the class of 2022, $1,264.97 from the Tecumseh Coalition for Youth to SAD, $500 from Ray and Aaron Torres for the girls' basketball program, and another $500 from Ray and Aaron Torres for the football program.
Second.
We moved and second to accept the donations as noted. Roll call vote. Trustee Brooks?
Aye.
Trustee Davis?
Aye.
Trustee Lewis?
Aye.
Trustee Moore?
Aye.
Trustee Simpson?
Aye.
Trustee Tomlin?
Aye.
Chair votes aye with many thanks. Again, I'm just, every month we have, every week, it's 2 weeks ago, 3 or 4 donations. I really appreciate that. Thank you. Next motion?
I hereby move to accept the estimate from FNS Landscape, estimate number 11573, to do the sculpture.
Second.
Moved and seconded to accept the bid from FNS Land Service for the sculpture garden. Roll call vote. Trustee Tomlin?
Aye.
Trustee Simpson?
Aye.
Trustee Moore?
Aye.
Trustee Lewis?
Aye.
Trustee Davis?
Aye.
Trustee Brooks?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Thank you very much. Yeah?
I don't hear any trucks.
I get them on the horn there, Mrs. Bolton.
Yes. All right, move on now to the agenda for administration district business consent agenda.
I hereby move to approve the consent agenda, which includes the following minutes from the regular board meeting of May 9th, 2022.
Support.
We moved and seconded to accept the consent agenda. Roll call vote, trustee Davis.
Aye.
Trustee Lewis.
Aye.
Trustee Moore.
Aye.
Trustee Simpson.
Aye.
Trustee Thomas.
Aye.
Trustee Brooks. Chair votes aye. The consent agenda is approved. Next up, superintendent report, Mr. Hillerly.
All right, there's just one item on there, but I have a couple of additional items that I'll mention as well. First of all, the bond revamp. Unfortunately, we did not have passage of our bond project on May 3rd. We have all sort of resolved to try to gather more information and see what the circumstances were in the public view. Provided that survey, about 725 responses, with numerous comments. It gives you a little bit of insight. I think one of the things to note there is in terms of what people saw as a shortcoming of the bond, the highest percentage of all the choices had to do with one or more elements of the bond. And not going into what all those were, that was a little surprising to me, that there were things in the program that were reasons why people would vote or not vote. Again, most of the people who interacted with us are families of ours, and not necessarily a lot of the senior citizens and older portion of the community. So maybe they did or didn't know exactly what the elements were. But because of that feedback specifically, and because of some subsequent conversations about rising costs, increase in prices for families and their income level right now, I feel like what we need to do is continue with the information gathering process and put that in front of the teachers committee, have a conversation about their feedback and what they've heard from people that they've had conversations with. And then I can come back with all that information to the board in summary and have a more in-depth conversation about what to do next. We know this. We know that if we want to have a bond issue on the November ballot, that we have to be ready for the July 6th conversation with the Department of Treasury. So we don't have a lot of time to change large portions of the program that we put out. So I think it's important that we have more conversation. I sent a recommendation to you all earlier today about having a study session and have an in-depth conversation with not only myself and members of the Building Futures Committee potentially, but also, some of the people that give the board advice on these things, TMP, PFL, our financial advisor, Plant Moran, and just have an in-depth discussion looking at the information that's provided from the survey, feedback from these forums. Mr. Niles and his parent group provided me a lot of good feedback. Share all that information in advance, but I think that we could have a conversation prior to the June 13th board meeting. Probably 5:45 suits your schedule, I guess, works. So if we had an hour and 15 minutes prior to the board meeting to allow the board to ask questions and consider all of the input, I think it would be a better way of making a final decision about what to do moving forward with the bond. So recommending that we do that. If there's not any objection, I can simply have Mrs. Moore schedule that and put that in the calendars for the 13th.
And as you gather information,
I'll be continually updating you between now and then. with information, but I think to have a conversation and talk to some of those people that I mentioned, I think it's important.
I'm sorry, in the survey, is there a way, because there are some areas where like, oh, they don't want this part of it. Is there a way to ask those people exactly why they're so opposed to certain components?
Well, the survey's anonymous, so I don't know how to go back to those people and ask them why. All I can hope for is that they
We can go back
engage.
to all of them and say everyone.
I'm hoping that we'll do the face-to-face and the virtual, we'll get, it'll be more conversational, so I'll be able to ask those questions. Surveys, well, they're actually two-way. I can't drill down, so we just have what we have.
Well, I think it's a good idea, public, or big boy, wherever you're at, see people, ask people that you know, is good feedback. A lot of people aren't gonna come and time to spend an hour and a half, yeah, different. So, but if we can get as much feedback on the street, as a board.
My question was, when we were here last time, you were waiting to get like some emails from the city, like an email list. Were you able to do that? And did those emails go out, or was there a little lag time in that?
There was lag time. What they ended up doing was putting it on the city's Facebook page.
Okay, so then
So you
people
basically
could
have two
access
surveys.
it.
They should be sure to do their
I
Facebook.
wish there was a way that
Same
you could
survey.
access
Same
for
survey.
people who are not
Right,
social
you
media
just have to-
savvy.
I posted it in a couple of different social media forums as well. So.
Did you see an uptick after they posted it?
I saw growth in the survey after they posted it of a little over 100 responses.
Okay. Alright, and then hopefully, what are our strategies for advertising, can that be put on the city page too, or people could, oh, it's always on the Facebook page, they have a regular, website.
Well, certainly strategies, there'd be lots of discussion about strategies.
You know what I mean, like to get the information out that we're having a strategy meeting, you
Oh.
know, I mean, obviously, social media is one form, the paper's another
Right.
form, but,
Yeah.
you know, I think this is something everybody struggles with, how do you get information out to people who don't use social media? How do you get information out to people who don't read a paper? I mean, there's only so much you can do. WLEN, are we utilizing them, has
We
that
did.
been-
Right.
Well, I don't know, are we advertising our meetings
I
on
don't know,
WLEN?
I don't know if LEN got our press release, but I
Maybe
think
Victor
they
could
can push
check
it out
this.
there too.
You know, some people listen to that, you know, it's always fun to see where there's a grad sale, what somebody's
does.
I think.
So
It's 5:45, enough
I believe that it is an hour and 15 minutes. Does the board want to go more in depth?
I mean, but we'll have feedback along the way till we get there, so.
I think based on the preliminary discussion we had in the Slims committee, that an hour and 15 should be enough for next step. I assume though there will be additional study sessions after that, very strategies.
Right, at this time, we're just talking about how to move forward and then strategy will be a conversation. So,
See, people seem to miss the point that, you know, people think, well, that they are getting the mill back, you know, I mean, even the paper and that was a real clear at the start, I appreciate your letters to the editor, you know, because we did vote to get that money back, and it didn't really capture that in some of the media releases first. So when you do have those conversations, as Tim talks about, you know, the board, we want to be transparent. We voted to give that mill back, and it's important. I wish the headline would have covered that, but, you know, we can only move forward and have those conversations with people.
When we had this other study session, could you invite the Building Features Committee people to be here too? Because I've never heard them speak other than when they presented to us, I think in the cafeteria a few months ago, so.
yeah, and those, the two that made that presentation was kind of volunteered at the end, so there was never really committee leadership, because we stretched it out over a couple of years.
Part of it had to.
Yeah, we did, it's just how it
Board
was.
members are part of this board.
So, well, what I'm gonna do, Mr. Lewis, is the night of the, June seventh, I will invite everybody who attends that meeting to then come in on the 13th and provide input.
And I think it's important, I think I've read it, and I've heard you say it, and I happen to know some people on Building Future who are out trying to recruit other people who maybe didn't have a chance this first time, so we are taped, it's really good to know that, hey, maybe you wanna volunteer, you know? Maybe you wanna be part of the discussion, so you should come on June seventh, is it?
The 7th is the.
If you wanna have some input, then come on June seventh, it's not an exclusive group, it's open to all.
Yeah, and that's one thing I wanted to say, I mean, just to clarify, I mean, there are 2 meetings scheduled. One of them is this Thursday at 6 PM in this room, open to the public forum input. And the second is Tuesday, you said earlier Wednesday, but it's Tuesday, next Tuesday, May 31st at 6 PM, which is a virtual meeting. And the link to that will be posted on our website. So, then the third option would be
Join the Building Future.
join the Building Future Committee, which meets on the 7th. So we've had the survey, 3 opportunities for public input on this. We want that input. I think, everybody said they've already read about these comments and stuff. We're trying to figure this out. So we're here.
The next item I want to mention is administrative assignments for next year. There will be a couple of changes as Mrs. Way moves into the curriculum director position. My plan is to move Mrs. Shirk, who's currently the principal here at Park, to fill the role at Tecumseh Acres ELC, and Mrs. Fulton will then be principal between here at Park and Madison in 3-4 levels. It is, I think, important for the community and our staff to understand that not passing the bond requires us to be as responsible as we can with our funding. And saving that hire allows us to consider that money as part of capital improvements moving forward.
When you have an emergency that comes up.
Yeah, right now, if we had to replace a boiler, we would have to dig into funding. And that's not something we want to have to do. While the future of the state school aid fund, based on the meeting on the 20th, it looks positive, lots of tax dollars rolling into that, but that's not gonna be sustainable over many years. And if we don't address some of the needs of the district in the next 10 years, through a bond issue, then it's going to have to come through capital improvements. And you have to mine for every dollar that you can. We're only currently putting $200 or $300 into that new budget now, and we'll have to move to probably maybe even a 7-figure number in the future if we've got large things to take off of that list. So this move isn't just about that. I wouldn't do this if I didn't think that the 3-4 staff was really strong and capable. I wouldn't do this if we didn't have the counselor in place that the board put in to start this year. I wouldn't do this if I didn't have complete faith in Mrs. Fulton to be able to carry it off. There's strong office staff at both of those buildings. There are teacher leaders on both of those staff who want to be involved. So I'm looking at all the supports and looking at it financially and making this change for next year. I'll continue to update the board and let you know how I feel things are moving with that decision, but I'm cautiously optimistic. 3-4 is in good hands in lots of different ways. And then the last thing I just want to note for the community, we have 4 board seats that will be open in November. But if you plan to do that. The deadline is July 26th to make application for that. You either have to get a certain number of names, what's the number on that?
Between like 50 and 100, and then you should probably look at more in case there's an error, if somebody filled it out correctly. You have to go to the county to get your paper.
You have to go to the county clerk to get that application, and it has to be completed by the 26th of July, so.
Nope, I tried that first. You have to go to the,
Yeah, it used to be Raisin Township, they got turned over to the city.
Okay,
yeah, your
that's up to
signatures
my
are paid.
I have a question about the report. So when, Mrs. Fulton's in, Herrick Park, would Mrs. Laney be over at Patterson?
That would be the schedule, would
So
be to have
so
them,
there's somebody there that's.
right, between Mrs. Laney, who's highly experienced, capable, and identified lead teachers on both staff. If there was an emergency, it does take at least 5 minutes to gather up your stuff, jump in your car, and head across town. So immediate response would be with a counselor and a lead teacher, and that would be the crisis plan.
People might remember that years ago, before we even had a counselor or lead teachers, Ridgeway and Herrick Park, Ridgeway and Patterson had to share somebody, or Tipton and Sutton. I mean, it's not ideal for sure, but I mean, we didn't even have a counselor or some of those supports that we have now. And these two schools are probably the closest.
Geographically,
Distance.
relatively close. And you're right, my first year in the district in 1990, I worked out at the share principal in Sutton.
Very
They're a
far.
solid 15 minutes apart. And we were typically out of Tipton, maybe 20% of that principal's time was spent in that building. So it's very doable. Like I said, I have a lot of faith in that staff, and Mrs. Fulton, and Mrs. Laney, and the office staff to make this work. And I just think it's important administratively and for this board to try to take opportunities like this to reallocate money from one thing to another. In this case, we've got to increase our capital outlay budget. This is one way that we can address that.
I think it's important to note that the lifespan of elementary schools we have right now, those boilers are, they don't owe us anything anymore. That's the best way to put it. So if one goes down, that's a major expense. We could hopefully not really pass that tomorrow.
Right, and I would hate to have to put Jamie on the survey up next to heat. What would you rather have?
All right,
But you're right, Mr. Lewis, there are things that we have to be prepared. Those are hard decisions. I know that the 3/4 staff, and I had meetings with all of the buildings that I mentioned today. And, there are varying levels of acceptance for that plan. And some anxiety going into the end of the year, but vote on May 3rd just has us pausing and thinking about how we can address things moving forward. So this is part of that.
So I think that, do we know by our study session if that capital plan will be clear, or is that something important we should wait on for the administrative?
We'll have as much of that information collected by that time as make sure that TMP, who has done our needs assessment twice, and Mr. Hawkins, who's gathering costs and things like that, I want to be able to present that on the 15th, so that we have that information.
Kelly, if there are any specific things that you want to see from a financial standpoint, do we send them to her record or send them to you? As we
Both of us, please.
any other questions for Mr. Hilderly? we'll move on to, so items scheduled for next agenda. Certainly we'll have 3 action items, MASB membership approval, transportation contract, and the lawn care and snow removal contract will be the action items that we know of now. And of course, we'll have other discussion items and good news at the June 13th meeting, as well as an early study session before that. Move on to closing, public comment. If anybody has public comment, I will remind you that we are limited to public comment for 3 minutes. I will set a timer here. Appreciate if you would limit your comments to that time. So.
Well, I practiced before I got here, it was 3:05, so.
All right.
Okay, my name is Barb Randolph. I'm the secretary at Tecumseh Acres, and prior to that, I was here at the high school. May is Mental Health Awareness Month, and I wanted to take a moment tonight and talk about my why and some information, and share some information on what is available for our students. 6 years ago, my youngest daughter attempted suicide. It was Sunday, April 10th, 2016, and the last day of spring break in her senior year of high school. She had gone bowling and out for ice cream the night before, and had arrived home around midnight. At 1:52 a.m. that Sunday morning, she woke me up asking me to go to the emergency room. I'd been sleeping, so I was confused. She hadn't been sick, what was wrong? After asking a few times, she said that she had taken a bunch of pills. My world stopped, and a journey I never asked to be on began. I don't have time to share the details this evening, but I'm happy to say that she is doing well. She's gotten married, graduated college, and has a daughter of her own. And for all these things, we are thankful. After being released from the hospital, she felt that she wanted to share her story to help others. We did not know what that would look like at first, but it didn't take long to find out. In June of that same year, one of her classmates died by suicide shortly after graduation. And by August, another student had attempted. These were just a few of the cases that I knew of. How many other students were struggling as well? I reached out to TPS to see what was available for our students and how I could help. That was when I met Jennifer Morgan. We began working on creating a suicide awareness and prevention program for our students. The toolkit we created was actually made available to all schools in Lenawee County. In addition, we learned of the Why Do You Matter campaign introduced by Chelsea Schools and added that to our building. You can't walk down the hall and not notice the pictures. I love that this is a rolling program with our incoming freshmen having the opportunity to think about their why and have their picture added to the wall. And our seniors get their picture when they graduate as a reminder of that why. Our Sources of Strength program focuses on hope, help, and strength, giving our students the tools and resources they need when times get tough. If you look at the windows of the library, you can see the What Helps Me and I'm Thankful For campaigns that we did when our students weren't able to come into the building. This gave our students a chance to focus on the positives during uncertain times and when mental health concerns were at an all-time high. Oftentimes, people may notice a cry for help, but many times the person struggling has become so good at hiding it that no one knows. My daughter was like this. In fact, so many people have said to me, if it could happen to one of your girls, it could happen to anyone. They're 100% right. I wish I could say that my journey is done and there's no longer a need for programs like this, but sadly, we all know this is not the case. I'm sharing tonight because it has been on my mind a lot, as is normal this time of year. And also I felt that maybe someone needed to hear this. We need to continue to talk about it and make it okay to ask for help. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Is there any other public comment? All right, then we'll move on to board member comment discussion.
I have 2 things.
Okay.
First thing is, thank you for bringing that up, and all that you did to make that happen. And I do want to say that in the policy committee, something that we saw that we want to make sure happens for next school year, there's a law or there's a thing in public policy where you're supposed to, if your school issues an ID badge, you're supposed to print on the ID badge the national hotline number. So we want to make sure that that happens at our, wherever buildings our students get the IDs for next year. So that prep needs to start, happening, I'm sure, so that we're not caught off guard.
You did that this year.
Yeah, oh, you did it already, that's cool. I just didn't know that till I read that policy not being in school. The other thing I want to do is I want to thank the Lenawee School Foundation. Recently I went to the scholarship, I worked at the back, but the amount of scholarships that our Lenawee School Foundation gave was incredible compared to any county school. And then the Lenawee School Foundation would be recognizing, they always recognize graduates of Tecumseh. And our own trustee Greg Lewis will be awarded tomorrow night for the class of 79. You are younger than I am, right? 78. Oh, excuse me, I had you way younger, and think about what he has given back all his years of being an educator and serving on the board. So thanks to the Lenawee School Foundation for those things.
So I'd like to thank everybody that is putting this up together for the seniors this year. We always do a great job of seeing our seniors off. This year is a little extra special for me because I have one, but just thanking for everybody that's participated and making their end of their journey here. Really.
Should tell everybody where they went on the mystery trip in case they don't know. This is pretty cool.
So that they went on their mystery trip yesterday. Today was their unofficial senior skip day. After their late arrival, they went to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, Cleveland, and they went to the Tigers game in Cleveland, where we won, which was awesome, of course. And then they were on a boat in Lake Erie. So,
The DJ and
yeah,
pretty cool trip.
What were we on the boat, Lake Erie?
They weren't fishing, they were dancing.
Yesterday.
In the Cleveland area.
You driving that?
Yeah. So they had a really good time. It was an awesome trip. So, and there's the parade is coming up at 7 o'clock. 7 o'clock on the 3rd, I think. Let me double check that. What'd you say? Yeah. So Friday, June 3rd, we'll have the parade at 7 o'clock, the senior parade, and then graduation 2 o'clock on the 5th.
2 o'clock on the 5th, but we're supposed to be here at 1 o'clock for participate, right?
We are.
We are, yeah, so that was one of my.
Are we doing that? I know we did that before.
Niles?
Are you hiding?
He's taking a nap.
Somebody wake him up.
Do they clap
So
seniors out on Friday?
pre-COVID, we did a clap out. And then last year we did at the doors. We did something for the seniors. I don't remember that, but yes. Okay,
All right,
give us some thought. It's a lot of fun. And there's, a few less students this time, so you're gonna do this one.
yes?
I just wanted to send some encouragement to our administrators, especially our building administrators. We know the next week and a half is perhaps the hardest week of school, time in school. So just thank you for all you've done for our children this year, and we're sending good vibes and good thoughts your way as everybody is looking forward to summer vacation, and it starts to show this time of year. So yeah. I don't know if we need coffee readily available to anybody this time. It might take us the other way, but thank you very much for all your hard work in this approach.
I think one thing I like to mention, I don't know if the board, I really didn't know, when John Zajac put together what I call a game that he started. This is the first year, and we met Sunday yesterday and I'll let him make it up who it was to start that process. And he picked, people, older people, like, I'm not the oldest, I'm just really close. And so you can go back and look at people from former graduates, yes, and kind of layer that in. That's something he started. And then it just amazes me with the selfless giving from people who are from Tecumseh and live here. Ray Torres donates $1,000. I'm pretty sure he's an assistant football coach here. Pretty sure after he pays taxes, that's about what he gets. We're going to give that back. That's pretty amazing stuff, I think. It kind of speaks to the fabric of who we are and what this town does and why people volunteer.
I have two things. I wanted to comment that on Friday morning, Christy Brooks and Mr. Hilby and I attended the LIC Congressional Breakfast, and I think in light of what, Mr. Randolph said, we heard that there's a lot of money that appears to be coming for, mental health and counselors. It appears that that's something that, their Representative Powell in particular mentioned that, and, that's kind of the one thing I went away from that meeting with, is that there's dollars coming and there's really focused on counselors and that, so that's great. That, really goes hand in hand with what you're saying. The second thing is, I said it a minute ago, and I'll say it again, we have 3 meetings come up. If you want to get public comment, I don't know how else to say it. We don't have enough comment. We have 13 meetings, we're not well attended, but we have 3 more coming. This board wants your input. I promise you, everybody in this board wants your input. I'm saying that to the public. That's all I have. I'm looking forward to seeing everybody on the 5th for the graduation. Anybody else? I'll accept the motion to adjourn.
So moved.
That's been moved and seconded to adjourn. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same sign.
It's very big, the louder every time I think you're able.
You behave. You behave.
Oh, I know you too.